the things I have always been captivated by, but have a really hard time wrapping my mind around is astrology, and particularly how we can use astrology to better understand ourselves, to more deeply understand ourselves. And certainly for me as a therapist, to perhaps understand how someone's astrological chart might influence what we're working on, what they're here to work on in this life, and how they can use their chart to help them make decisions during certain times of the year, during certain times of the month. There's just so much richness to it. And I couldn't think of a better person to help me explore this than Stevie Calista. Stevie is this incredible astrologer. I'm actually connected with her because we are both guides on this new incredible platform called the Seeking Center, which brings together some of the best guides in the sort of more woo space. And she and I got to talking about just how astrology can be used in so many ways therapeutically. So this conversation goes deep. We talk about astrology from a basic level to a deeper level of understanding your soul contracts, your soul purpose, why you're here, what you're here to work on, what you're here to grow from. It's just a really rich conversation that I think you will love and be able to apply it everywhere in your life. So with that, I bring you today's episode with Stevie Calista.
We need at our table of awareness the logician, but equally we need the intuitive, we need the mystic.
I almost died. I was allowed to go to the very precipice of death, of life and death, and look over the edge. And I was allowed to behold what was there and allowed to come back. Most people aren't.
When we talk about being aligned with ourself or being aligned with our soul or hearing our higher self, that's really what we're talking about, is being connected to that divine part of ourself, that light-filled part of us that is connected to God energy, that is connected to everybody here and every experience we've ever had.
If more doctors, more professionals can open up to use intuitive gifts in their work, that's really important.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Robbins, and welcome to Life, Death, and the Space Between. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and medium, and here we explore life, death, mediumship, near-death experiences, consciousness, and what it all means. Welcome, Stevie, my most favorite astrologer, to Life, Death, and the Space Between.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure to be here.
So I kind of can't believe I haven't had you on already, because you did a reading for me 2018 or 19 that was amazing. And we are co-guides on this new incredible platform, the Seeking Center. Mm-hmm. And I am so excited. Actually, even as we're speaking today, my episode with Michelle Nolan on tarot just dropped. So this is a perfect sort of complement to that. And, you know, one of the things that you and I have talked about offline, and also what I've talked about with Michelle, is how people are really starting to integrate astrology into many different aspects of their life, but certainly clinical work. And I just want to understand, I've had people on before, but I want to get from you, who I think is, you know, one of the best out there. What are some of the basics of astrology, and why does it matter in our life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Basically, you can think about astrology like everyone has, I think this is also family systems, I've heard does this, but astrologically speaking, all your different placements and planets are like passengers on your bus. And so some of them get along really well and sit next to each other, and some of them are throwing things at each other or fighting. And they basically represent our challenges, our gifts, our desires, our emotional body, how we receive energy. And so the chart really speaks to that. And at an even deeper level, you know, astrology is a snapshot of like that exact energetic moment you were born. So the exact frequency that was coming down that your mom had when she was birthing you. And it tells a story about where our soul has been and what it's doing here. And so that's my biggest focus in my sessions is, why are you here? Where did you come from? And also, like, where do you get stuck? And what makes you feel most alive? So yeah, I mean, the chart really holds almost every answer to everything, honestly, if you look, but it really speaks to like what your flavor is and what you're doing here.
Can you explain with this notion of the frequency when your soul is born? So is that the moment that your soul comes into your body? And how does that frequency then determine and where all those planets align? How does that then determine everything?
Yeah. It's basically like a roadmap, right? So if you think about a season of astrology, like right now we're in Gemini season, right? And every year the sun is in Gemini around this time, and Gemini season brings us this energy of the mind and being kind of like lots of spinning plates, very busy, very chatty, very curious. And so if you were born when the sun was in that frequency, right, you have that beam of energy coming down, right? And
it's my season.
Yeah, totally. And then, then the moon's in a sign, and Saturn and all the other planets are in different signs. So they are bringing different energetic frequencies down. So it's like a blender of all of those frequencies. And that becomes your soul's map, right? Like it really tells the story about your karma and what you're working through and your parents and your traumas and all of it. It tells the story of all of it and how to work with it too,
So, okay. So first let me ask, if you are a Gemini in Gemini season or a Taurus in Taurus season, I see this on Instagram all the time because for some reason, astrology and me just have not clicked. Like I can't wrap my mind around it I don't know why. But if you are a Gemini in Gemini season, is that then heightened for you because that is the sign under which you were born, or how does that work?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Basically, you have like a homecoming, right? They call it the solar return, where the sun comes back to itself where it was when you were born. And so it's like the sun meets up with that specific degree that created your life force energy, because that's what the sun does, right? And so you kind of come home to yourself in a lot of ways. And there's usually your birthday is when the sun comes back to itself, and you can kind of see yourself a little bit more clearly, usually. It depends on what else is going on, right? But usually that's kind of how it happens. It's like you come home to like who you are every year. Does that make sense?
Yes. So in all of these other seasons, Leo season, Taurus season, I never hear people talking about Capricorn season. Like, are there seasons that are stronger, that have more kind of resonance collectively than other sign seasons?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The 4 cardinal seasons, so the solstices and equinoxes, so that would be Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer, are very strong. You don't really hear about Capricorn that much because it happens right after Christmas, like right at the solstice, right before Christmas at the solstice. But those points where the sun hits those specific energies and how the earth is aligned with the planets and the sun itself are very powerful. But yeah, it really for everybody it's different, right? Some people it's summer outside, but they're more in a winter season inward, right? Like Capricorn season for me is winter, but it's actually where I'm the most public, where I'm the most energized. And so it just depends on your chart as to like what your rising sign is and then how it's laid out that way.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about soul levels, soul contracts, and soul purpose and how it relates to astrology and what you see coming in terms of how it gets laid out. And then I guess I have a couple questions in this. So my listeners know soul contracts are these experiences that you have that you contract before you come to an earthly body in order to, I conceptualize it as a way to grow your soul, to learn and experience the opportunities that are set in front of you to continue to grow.
Yeah.
So how does this work with our soul and our astrological chart? Like, do we does the soul contract, it's going to come in this time because astrologically that's the vibration that it needs to be in? Or like, explain to me how this all comes together.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Amy, I love your questions. I live for these. So think about it like your North Star, right? Think about your purpose like your North Star. You're always walking to the North Star. You're always doing your best to feel most alive in your body, right? To kind of remember why you came here. And it's the energy of like, oh my God, this makes me feel alive. This is what I need to be doing more of. And the South Node in astrology, which is where we came from, or our past lifetimes, if you believe in that, is a place that we've mastered. So we come in with these 2 points, a mastery energy, and it can also feel very stuck if we stay in the mastery, because why would your soul want to stay where it's already been, right? Where it's what it's already mastered. But you're carrying that with you like the South. So you're always walking towards the North because it's not necessarily unfamiliar, but it's like where you're headed. And no matter what happens astrologically, that's always your North and South pole, right? And then occasionally something will come and hit those points. Like Venus will do it every 18 months. The moon will do it once a month. Saturn will do it every 30 years. And so you have these years often where it's very activated. So it gets kind of complex. Like every 7 years, you have a Saturn year. And usually if you go back and look at your life, 7, 14, 21, 29, 30-ish, they're big change years. They're karmic years where Saturn's like, hey, remember you signed up for this?
Got it. Okay.
Not bad or good, but we have these activation years too. And then from 37 to 44, we go through many, many transits of massive growth. They call it the midlife growing up. And those are really big years for us too. But yeah, it's always being activated, but it's always like a pole. You know what I mean? It's always something you're headed towards. And the chart speaks to that in the North Node. That's what we call it.
So you come with a mastery.
Right.
Then are you presented with challenges that illuminate that you have mastered that and you should move on from that? Like that you should keep going? Is that kind of how this gets set up with the soul contract work?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And for some people that's more challenging than others, depending on what their birth chart looks like, what their soul blueprint looks like. But really the South Node, which is where we've mastered, where we've come from, you can't run away from it. It's truly like you're who you are, but you just can't stay in it because there's no growth in it. So you kind of have to find the middle point between the new and the mastery. Does that make sense? It's like, yeah, okay, I've mastered. I'm going to keep going, right? But I'm going to take this with me.
Okay, so let's talk about how this could show up in therapy. So someone brings in their chart and what would they say? Like, give me an example of what a North Node mastery would be versus a South Node growth.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I'll give myself as an example. My South Node is in Capricorn. It's at the top of my chart. And so I've had a lot of lifetime. Capricorn would signify somebody that carries a lot of responsibility, is really hard worker, and probably is an overworker, like gets stuck in more work than anything. Mm-hmm. And my North Node is in Cancer in the 4th house, which just signifies I'm here to nurture my emotions and be with my family and cook and be home and nest. And so I'm trying my best to not be obsessed with work, right? And still honor my inner world and my home life as much as I can. And then for other people, it's about relationships, right? Like they're here learning how to be in harmony with another person. And that, everybody has a little bit of all of this, right? But it's just more of it's exaggerated big time.
Okay. So one might think if you came with that you're going to be presented with situations that could, in theory, call you to work more and give less energy to your family, to your friends, to your home life, and that you're constantly running up against. I'm just trying to put this in like the therapist 100%. Mindset. Yep. So you're constantly running up against this. So you present in therapy as, I never really have time for my family. I'm constantly working. I'm being asked, there's so much being asked of me. Yep. I want to put forth in all of this. I can't help it. Like I can't stop myself.
Yes, exactly.
And so the work in therapy is not to say, oh, well, my south node, right? Your south node. This was your south node is in Capricorn. So there's nothing I can do about that. Cause I hear that a lot. Oh, well, this is just my astrological chart. Oh, well. But that is the work that we need to focus on then is you have to, because part of your soul contract when you came was that you were going to learn how to balance not working so much. 100%. And the pull from that pull is to work. But really, in order to find balance, you need to move more towards kind of nurturing your family, nurturing your home life,
100%.
nurturing.
That's exactly how it works. And so there's 12 houses, meaning there's 12 different ways this can show up for people. And some of them have similar flavorings. Like some people are more homebodies and they actually need to put themselves out in the workforce and need to take more responsibility and lead, right? So it can be the opposite. But this is really the north and south nodes in the chart really are what we come back to every single time. Like it's always, like you said, it's always the way in which we try to find balance.
Okay. But it's not an excuse.
No.
Okay.
And you won't feel good if you hang out. Right. And life isn't good when you become sort of a victim, like you said, of your own circumstance. Yep.
Right. So in the same way, we really use astrology in this way as a way to guide us to a deeper understanding of maybe the frequency in which we showed up here, but not necessarily the frequency in which we need to continue living at.
100%.
Okay. Yep.
And like you said earlier, you'll just keep coming up against it. And this is a lifelong thing, right? This is why we're here. Is like, it doesn't just go away and you find balance and, I've success. You're constantly coming up against this.
It's been a while since I've talked to you about what I'm up to. I want to first start by thanking so many of my supporters who have supported me on Patreon and in my Circle community. What's so exciting now is we have my new Circle community up and running, where if you want to contribute to supporting the podcast, you can do so at different levels for different values. So head on over to my Circle group. You can actually find the link in the show notes below. And there's opportunities to continue to support the podcast. And I have to say, your support of the podcast is frankly what has kept this podcast going over time. I have been funding the podcast solely by myself. I get a little bit of money in advertising dollars, but not a lot. So anything that you can give, if you have found value in this podcast, and it's not just giving without anything back, I will give back to you. You will be a part of this community with opportunities for discounts and conversations and ask Amy anythings. But it's a great opportunity for you to support what hopefully has helped you over the many, many years. Also, there's so many other ways now that you can work with me. I am offering a group course called Live Your Life Backwards, which is finishing its first cohort this winter and has been absolutely incredible. There's retreats coming up. There's workshops. There's one-on-one sessions with me. So many options that we can work together. So make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to my podcast, and make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter, where you will get a free soul wisdom workbook to help you dig deeper into the virtues that you want to be living in this lifetime. We all need so much more spirituality now. We are in a spiritual crisis, and I am giving you so many tools to tap into your own spirituality. So check out, and don't forget to subscribe to Life, Death, and the Space Between so you never miss an episode. So let's say that someone, I'm just trying to tie this in with other more non-traditional concepts of like past lives.
Yeah.
So in a past life, would this then show up in the same way where someone would have had maybe, the same struggles and overworked and worked themselves into the ground? And so it was showing up again as the same frequency for them to work through in this lifetime?
Totally. Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly what happens. Or like you, for example, I had one where I was leading a group of people into war and it didn't go so well. And so then the responsibility of that karma is also, that's why things feel heavy for me right in this life. Cause it just feels so like, I have so much responsibility and I have to just keep going. And so it shows up in so many ways, but that flavor is usually from multiple lifetimes.
Got it. Okay.
And I want to say too, sorry, that this is also a gift that you have, right? Your South Node is a massive mastery gift. Like it's not something you want to run from. It's something you want to really own, but just not hang out in it all the time.
Right. I mean, it sounds like it's very powerful because it's something you already know how to do. So it should in some ways be more like it should come with a little bit more ease in terms of your ability to do it, but not your desire to stay in it.
100%. Yep.
Okay. This is all making sense. I can't wait to listen to my reading with you again. Because every time I listen, I'm like, oh, okay, there's something different. That makes sense. So I think we've talked a little. Have you used astrology with therapists before?
It's actually something I've always kind of wanted to work with that sector of people, because even if we were to just look at somebody's sun, moon, Mercury, and North and South Node, you guys would have a deep understanding immediately of like what's going on here and even how to speak to them emotionally and how their brain functions. And it's definitely a passion that's on the back burner.
Well, and I know you and I are going to be doing some stuff on it. So it's going to be fun.
For sure.
But what is it about those, what you listed, the 5, right? Sun, moon, Mercury, South, North, and South.
Yeah.
What are can you explain the moon and Mercury for me again?
Yeah. So the sun is like your outer, right? Your life force. The moon is inner, emotional body, our mother, our emotional needs, like how we can really care for ourselves and how we feel too. The moon has a lot to do with our inner feelings. And Mercury is our mind. So it's how we think. Like if, for example, if you have a person with a water Mercury, their mind thinks more in the flow state, more creatively, more intuitively, right? If you have somebody with air, then we have like the people that have quote unquote ADHD because their brains are running 1,000,000 miles an hour and they're processing data and they're so curious and they just have so much to, right? And so when we understand our Mercury, we really understand how we learn, communicate, talk, and all of that. It's really powerful, even just like for children too, knowing those 2 things about your kids really helps.
And Mercury is, when you're saying Mercury, it's where Mercury was at the time of your birth.
100%. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And it's twofold, right? You have your natural frequency of where your Mercury was. And then right now, where is Mercury? What's Mercury doing where is he in your life? What sign is in flavoring is he? Because that affects us too, right? So it's just so many layers. So many layers.
It really is this interaction between the vibration that you bring in and the vibration that's happening at the current time and how those 2 things are coming together.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. I hope this sticks in my mind. Makes so much sense when we're talking, and then I'll get off and I'll be like, wait, what was this? What was that? What was...
I know it's like a foreign language, but if you speak about it like energy, that's how I like to think about it. Because that's all it is, right? We're just energy bodies and we have our own flavor. And then there's certain energy, just like you said, certain energy right now today. And that changes every day, So yeah, we're affected differently. This is why we all feel the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. So emotionally, we're all like, oh, these 2 days feel like this. And then the next couple of days, you're like, I don't feel that anymore. And it shows up in a different place in our life too, every month. So yeah,
this is so, and it's fascinating too. Like when you think about how it connects to your cycles and, all of the things in life. Let me ask this, because we touched on this before we got on. Right now, we're in a period of really intense solar flares.
Yes.
What does that mean? What's happening? And then how does that then affect the Schumann resonance that we're seeing? And what could we feel as a result of a lot of these flares, which have been going on, I think, for about at least a year, right?
For a few years now, the sun has been very, very active. Essentially, when the sun has a lot of activity, whether that's a CME or a flare or any of this, you think about life force light comes down and it shakes our cells and it shakes the stuff that we've tucked in the shadows out. And so our physical bodies sometimes have a hard time, like, because it's like my guides always show me this like ringing, like you get wrung out like a rag. And so more light means the frequency raises, and the dark stuff that we've tucked kind of has to bubble to the surface. So it can be really uncomfortable. And physically speaking,
some people would say the last 5 years have been
exactly. And our cells kind of start to shake, right? And so because our DNA is changing, our bodies are changing, and the stuff that we've tucked it doesn't match the frequency, so it's gotta come up to the surface. So that's kind of how I like to think about it. And the Schumann resonance is really the Earth's frequency. And so she's also up leveling because, right, more light on us means more light on her, of course. So then she starts to shake a little bit more too. And you can download the Space Weather app if you guys want to have notifications of solar activity. You don't have to even know what it means, but it's very fascinating to watch a lot of them come in, and then you feel it. I feel it physically, usually on those days. So yeah. And same with the Schumann resonance. You can also download an app and get frequency or notifications for when the Earth is, and I also feel those really strongly too. So yeah, does that make sense? It's like we're raising our vibration, and stuff's got to be wrung out, and it's just more light, which means not as much darkness can hang out.
What causes that? Is it just like randomly at this point in time that this is happening? Because I mean, and then it's like, what causes what? Like, is that more light? What causes all this darkness to be shown? Or was all this darkness kind of this shift in consciousness happening? Mm-hmm. Now the sun is flaring. Like, how is it all interconnected?
Yeah, I love that question. We're traveling through a part of the cosmos that has more light. It's the photon belt, right? And so part of it is just that we're heading from a darker, heavier cycle. And we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? Into a lighter cycle. And I believe we're already in the age of Aquarius. That's just,
which means what?
It means that we're heading from Piscean age, which is Jesus's age, right? And that age is really, it's kind of like where we all were. I don't want to be really negative because there's beauty in all cycles, but age of Pisces is kind of like where we get a little bit confused, deluded, victim behavior, foggy, right? Kind of give our power away. Mm-hmm. And the age of Aquarius is really going to be inviting us into unity. Mm-hmm. Aquarius is all about what's best for humanity and the group, and like how we work together as a community, not from top down, but from group dynamic. Okay. Where Piscean age is a little bit more like you can be controlled, if that makes sense. That's the shadow of Pisces. So we're heading into that. Plus there's more light where we are in the cosmos. We're heading into a lighter cycle of the Earth's cycle. And so all of those things kind of bring the sun's activity up higher because the frequency is changing. So the sun shakes, the Earth shakes, our cells shake. It's just a whole big party of raising our frequency.
And when do you think we are fully in that age of Aquarius?
I personally think it's already happened. Like, I think it happened in the 2012 to 2024, 2020, somewhere in there. But that would be the end of the Mayan calendar, right? There's probably a reason why that was 2012. But there's a lot of different ages. The age of the zodiac is around 2,000 years. And then we have these much bigger cycles too, that some people are saying we just changed into a bigger cycle. So I don't really know. It's just kind of intuitively, I know that we're in the age of Aquarius, but astrologers have argued about that.
Yeah. Cause I've heard I remember during COVID, it was like 2025 was going to be sort of that, like the end of into 2025, sort of nearing the end of 2025, things would feel like they're starting to resettle.
Yeah.
Almost there, people. We're almost there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard people say in human design, which is a whole different conversation, but we're heading into a new gate in human design in 2027. which will change things up massively too. And I think that one's like a 600-year cycle or something. So we're at the precipice of like, and we all feel this, of like the end and the beginning. And 2025 astrologically really speaks to this. Like from January until August, we are all dipping our toe in this really new energy. And in the fall, we'll back up a little bit and be like, okay, well, let's just clean up what the end of that cycle. And then in 2026, it's like full on new energy. And I think we're all really feeling this. I know I am. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say like this push pull, because I've felt that for a couple of years where I feel like everything's revving up, but then it feels like it's hitting a wall. And I feel like everything's revving up and hitting a wall.
Yeah.
And this year, I finally feel like things are like revving. They're not hitting a wall. There's maybe like a little bit of like back and forth, but it's still moving forward. Whereas in the past, I kept feeling like, okay, let's go. But then it was like, stop. It was a lot of stop and go. And now I feel like it might be like a stop and yield.
Yeah. I feel that exact thing. Same exact way. Yep.
Okay. And I don't have any astrological knowledge. Like I just try to go intuitively on paying attention to what it is I'm feeling. And then I'm like, okay, how much is this me? How much is this where we are collectively? And I think that this to me is where the intersection of all of this comes together. That's so fascinating. It's like, okay, well, what's the me part that I can look at and make movement around? And then where might I need to be a little bit more patient based on where both I am in my own chart, where things are in the world, like all the levels moving out.
Absolutely. 100%.
So why do you think more people are seeking out these alternative kind of ways of looking at their lives? Because I think there's been other than social media, which obviously there are people posting all the time on all of this, if you follow this. But what do you think it is about this modality that is so intriguing to people, and why there's been such an uptick in both people seeking astrology and also astrologers?
Yeah, I think as society, the astrology would speak to this. Like the age of Aquarius is very astrologically based. It's like people are into the woo, right? They're into like tarot and they're into things that are quote unquote ahead of the time, right? Outside the box, innovative. Like we're all thinking more innovatively because that's the frequency that's on offer for us right now. And that's why. But there's also, I think, as we raise our frequency, there's a deep remembering of these cycles. And they're like in our DNA. And we used to all use them, right? The calendar used to be set up with the moon. Like we would wax and wane with her before the Gregorian calendar came around. And we used to have seasons with the sun. We would celebrate the solstices and the equinoxes and the midway points. And we were like one with nature. And I think we're all craving that so much. And that's what astrology really is. It just tells us like how to tune into nature and what's on offer for you at this time. So it feels like part ancient remembering, because astrology is one of the oldest systems that there are that we know of. And then also part like, okay, we can use this to think differently and really honor who we are and then help humanity. Like the more we help ourselves, right, the more we can show up for the collective. And the Aquarian age is very rebellious. It's kind of like middle finger. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do. This is how I feel like I can break free and not be in these story loops that were taught to me. And we're all kind of like in that frequency right now.
So the 60s and 70s wasn't that?
It had very Uranian energy, which is why it felt like that. Yep. Lots of transits happening with Uranus, which is Aquarian energy.
Got it. So that's why it felt like that, but it wasn't truly that. It was still Pisces.
Yep. It was still, you had a lot of like transits that would help try to bring the rebellious, like break free, innovative nature to the surface.
So is that why some could argue that there was those like all of this stuff that we're now seeing as a resurgence, like when you think about the psychedelic space, like that was right again on the precipice, but couldn't quite push through. It's 100%. Like now maybe I'm a little bummed that things didn't happen, but I think that there's reasons for that are now maybe being more exposed, but that we were like right on the precipice again. And it feels like we're closer than ever before, but we still couldn't quite get there.
Yeah. 100%. And the more people take the power back, which is what we're doing in Aquarius season, the more we'll be able to not be controlled, right? They control the psychedelics because they're controlling our consciousness because they're expanders. And so I think that's going to, I think in the next few years, that's definitely going to become very common and much more prevalent. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's interesting, like when I just think about, this is going to maybe sound silly and trite, but when I think about like the reemergence of farmers markets, right? Like that there were no farmers markets, I don't recall growing up as a kid.
Yeah, no.
It was like you got your food from a grocery store and whatever you ate, it was like everything was always in season. And it sort of feels like that still. But I think that like the reemergence of farmers markets and people just selling what they're growing and like people are paying more attention, whether they're conscious of it or not, to even like the foods that they're eating, because the foods that they're eating at different times of years have different energies based on what is being able to be grown, right?
100%. Yep. That's us tuning back into the earth and her cycles, right? And like what's on offer for us at the time.
So a lot of people will say astrology is just pseudoscience. There's nothing really behind it. It doesn't determine anything. Is there a place where this is debunked?
That's a great question. I mean, I feel like there's a place for everybody, whatever their beliefs are. And so and I've never tried to prove anything, when someone says stuff like that to me, but we're becoming more interested in the quantum physics, right? The quantum field. And most of that you can't see. Like when you walk into a room, you can feel stuff and you can't really explain why, but someone in the corner is in a bad mood or this person. A lot of us can anyway. And energy isn't something that we can see. And I think we're realizing like how, I think the future of science and medicine is going to be all frequency and energy based and sound based, right? So I think it's going to become way more normal to realize that, well, the sun has a different energy when it's in a different spot and it's hitting the earth a certain way. And it's like that every single year. Why does it always feel like that? And so, I mean, to me, it's like, I will never argue with that because everyone can believe what they want to believe. But at the same time, energy doesn't lie and we're all tapped into it. And there's a reason why these cycles feel the way that they do, I was very skeptical when I first started astrology. I don't even know why. I just felt a deep in my bones call to do it. And then after I started looking at my own chart, I just kept being like, holy, this is crazy. This is crazy. And then it just, from that place. So to those that would say that, like, I think you should try to open your mind and just go check it out. Cause we are way, way, way more than our sun sign. If you don't resonate with your sun sign, there's a big reason. You're way more than just that sign. And I think that's another reason because we did horoscopes, right? Like magazine, glamour horoscopes. I used to
love those with the Dear Abby.
Yep.
Right underneath it.
Yep. And just a caveat with that, like find out what your ascendant, your rising sign is and read that. Don't read your sun sign. Astrologers, we do not write horoscopes for sun signs ever. You can't. It's impossible.
Why?
It's absolutely impossible. Okay, it's not impossible. I shouldn't say that, but the way that we do it is we use your rising sign to see where things are happening in your chart. So if there's a full moon in Sagittarius, then I look to the rising sign to see where that full moon shows up in your life. And I write to that. I can't write the other way. I can't write to your sun sign because things are going to be showing up anywhere. There's no way for me to know that and keep it in a place where I can actually speak to the truth of what's happening. So always read your rising sign. You can read your sun if you want, but it's probably not going to resonate.
And you have to know for this the place you were born, the time you were born,
right? And the location, yeah, or the date, yep. Yeah, to get your rising sign, you have to have your time.
And there's really a huge, like 1 minute makes a difference.
It can. It can change things just slightly. Usually it's more like 10 to 20, 30 minutes can make a real difference. But yeah.
So fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about generation astrology. What is that? How does it work? What does it mean? Especially, again, I'm always looking through the therapist lens here as we talk about transgenerational trauma, things that are carried with you that you might not even be aware of, that's just passed down from generation to generation. So what is it through the lens of astrology?
Yeah, it's so important. I love generational astrology so much. Basically, how we calculate it, and you'll often see dates be different, right? Like sometimes the millennials are this, and then Gen X is this, but we calculate with Pluto. And so Pluto is usually in a sign for 18 to 20 years. So that would signify one generation. And if you have Pluto in a certain sign, it means that your soul is really working through those shadows. And so that will show up in your family dynamic and your upbringing and your trauma. We look to Pluto a lot for trauma. And so just as an example, people born with Pluto in Libra, which would be Gen X, real Gen X.
I think I'm Gen X.
Yeah, I think it's like 70. I don't remember the dates, but it ends.
I think it's something to 78.
Yeah, it ends in 1983.
83.
That's when Pluto changes to Scorpio. But just an example, if you were born in the 70s and 80s, most likely early 80s, you're working through Libra shadows, which is relationship, boundaries, people pleasing. So you probably had this story of like, well, you can't be yourself. You got to take care of the other person first. And, how do and we have issues with heart feeling safe in our bodies when there's confrontation. Right. And so then we have millennials who are Pluto in Scorpio, 1983 to, I forget when it ends. But those are all the people that are the true crime junkies that are really interested in trauma and psychology and why humans would do what they do and the darkness and the occult, right? And they're really here, the Pluto and Libra people are really here reparenting themselves, usually through children or relationships. Pluto and Scorpio people are really here to look at the shadow of the real trauma, like the darkness,
Wait, that's Gen X or Gen?
That would be millennials. Millennials are really the ones that are doing the scorpionic dark stuff. And so usually that generation will have had harder, I don't want to say harder, but things happen to them that they are facing, they're working through basically. And then right now, like the generation is Aquarius, right? Pluto moved into Aquarius last year. And so now new babies are being born in this Aquarian energy, which is all about group dynamics and helping humanity and the collective and being really innovative. And so each generation has a flavor, right? And when you look to actually have an article about this, if anybody wants it, I'd be happy to email it to you. Just email me. But I find it really fascinating. And even the generation after millennials, the Pluto and Sagittarius generation, are often what they would call the cancel culture. Like the shadow of Sagittarius is like, nope, you're wrong. Nope, it's black or white thinking. And the other side of that is like to expand people's beliefs and open them up to like new ways of thinking and really question, why are we here and what does it mean and why do we believe what we believe? And so every generation is like working through a frequency. And so when we're in that Plutonian energy, we're also all doing that work, right? You always do your soul's work, and then you're also doing the work of where the planets are right now.
Sort of the collective.
Yes, exactly.
Wait, are we missing a generation? There's Gen X. There's Gen Y, isn't there?
I shouldn't probably label them, but Pluto in Libra would be around Gen X. Pluto in Scorpio is millennial. And then Gen Y is Sagittarius, I think. And then there's Gen Z, I think, which is Capricorn.
Yes.
And
so
now,
Gen Z comes after millennials. This is where I always
got it. Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The Pluto and Sagittarius people are late 90s, early 2000s. So they're like teenagers in their 20s right now. And then
because I think my daughter's Gen Z.
What year was she born?
2006.
So she's at the very end of the Sagittarius generation. Yeah.
Okay. Because then my other two would be now we're generation alpha, right? Like we're back to
Yeah. And it doesn't really correlate with the astrology, like just
the
depends on who
years
you ask.
necessarily.
But Gen Alpha would be Pluto and Capricorn 2008 until 2024. That was Pluto Alpha, Pluto and
Okay.
Capricorn. And so we just started a new one last year.
So what happens if you're in the kind of tails of these cycles? Like even I wonder too, like when people are born in between, not in between signs, but they're right on the like the 21st, 22nd, like when those signs kind of shift over. What does that mean astrologically about where you are? Or does it not really matter that much because you're really going based on the time and of your birth and everything?
That's a really good question. A lot of people will say, well, I'm a cusp, right? Like I'm a Libra cusp or I'm a Scorpio cusp. Technically, you can only really be a cusp if you're at 0 degrees. So if you're on the day that it switches, like my husband's 0 degrees Aries, right? But I personally believe like he's an Aries. He's 0 degrees Aries. That's Aries. But the reason that people feel both is because there's planets on both sides usually. Like you'll usually still have Mercury or Venus or Mars on one side and then the sun and something else on another side. So you'll usually, if you're born at the end or beginning, you'll usually have both planets on both sides. So there's a reason why you're both, you know.
And then you're just picking up the energy of those planets around the time that you were born.
Right. Exactly.
That's what the frequency of that.
Yeah.
So when someone has their chart read, how much, like, do they come back for another reading? How much do things really change? I mean, your chart's your chart. You can't change where the planets fall at different times. So what can new readings help tell us about where we are or the work? Like, do you use them as like barometers to say, oh, you're doing a great job. You've like, looks like you've really worked hard on your overcoming how much you're working and you're giving more time to your family. Things now look balanced in the chart. Like it's not blood work.
Right. Totally. Well, the planets are always moving, right? And so these first part of the year, 6 months are going to look very different than the second half of the year, 6 months or whatever it is, depending on your chart. And so I often have people get readings twice a year, once a year, where you map out the whole year. But I also my favorite is to work with people once a month because we lean into the new moon and full moon, all the retrogrades, because those are showing up for people in different ways in their life. But my favorite thing in those sessions is that I could talk to you about your sun and your moon for 60 to 90 minutes, just those two placements. Because the sun and the moon hold the mother and the father, and then they hold your life. It's just so layered. And so I have clients that I work with in much more frequently where we dive into every single personality aspect, every single challenge, every single gift, and how those are activated on a monthly basis. So it just depends like how much you want to learn about the cycles. And, or we just do one session and I map out a whole year and then we get a flavor for your year and, we do it again the next year.
And then what do they do with that? What do you do with that?
Yeah, I really love to practice practical, grounded astrology because it gets really heady and it's like a foreign language. And so if we were to map your year together, I would basically say like, okay, March is going to have this vibe. You're going to be really activated in this part of your life. If you have a business, like do X, Y, Z, right? You'll feel it anyway, but like focus, you'll have a lot of time. So I get to really like carve out these windows that people can understand. Like, well, why did in February I feel this way? And then in March, I don't really want to do that anymore. And now I'm not in that vibe anymore. And I want to do this. So I try to map it out for people, depending on what their goals are. So I basically ask people like, what's your goal? Like, what are you looking to accomplish or understand? And then how do you work with that energy as it moves around? Because every year is different, right? Every month is different. And so one of my biggest passions is helping people lean into the energy.
Okay.
And then
how do you use
to
the
be like, hey,
favor?
This month is rest. You need to rest. Like take off time if you can. There's a reason why you feel so sleepy or so energized and like understanding those seasons in your own life.
Well, and I think what I always go back to is how important it is for people to tune into themselves. And what you're talking about is like you're using astrology as a way to help people do that even more. And you can learn in your own way, like intuitively.
Yeah.
And then also use astrology as a way to like almost validate what you're experiencing. Like you know, when I got on, I was like, blah, and you're like Gemini energy. And I'm like double Gemini because I'm a Gemini in Gemini energy. So
Totally.
right. It's like, oh, okay. That gives me a little bit of just deeper understanding of myself and what I'm feeling at this time.
Totally. Yeah. It's permission slips and validation. And then once you have that, you lean into it and know that, okay, well, in 4 weeks or 6 weeks, it's not going to, it's going to change. Right. So I'm just going to lean in now to what's on offer for me. We suffer a lot less when we do that.
Yeah. Surrender.
Yes.
Surrender. So one more question I have, because you talked about purpose, that our astrological chart gives us sort of our purpose. What do you mean by that? Because this is something that I think you and I, when we talked before, talked about this notion of one of the things that I really talk about is more essence than purpose, and like the expression of your soul versus like there is one thing for me and I need to find that one thing so then I feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
So how does astrology give us a map for what we're talking about?
This question, Amy. We don't have one purpose at all, right? Like we have a North Star and a South. We have a North and South Pole. Okay. Like that we're always trying to like move in that direction. Like we spoke about with our North Node, which sometimes astrologers call that soul purpose. But really your purpose is just to remember that you're love, right? Your love consciousness, and that you're human, and we're doing this and we're playing the game, and we're just figuring it out.
Matrix.
Yeah. We're just figuring it out. And like you can choose how to figure it out or not figure it out. All the chart really teaches us is like, hey, you have this gift, lean into it. Hey, you have this challenge that stinks. How can you work with it? How can you accept it and love it and all the things, right? It all comes back to self-compassion and love. And that's like what my purpose is in my sessions, is so that you walk away feeling like, okay, I'm empowered. I know who I am, who I knew all along was there. I don't tell you anything new at all. I just tell you all the things that you already know, and you just maybe aren't owning.
You've
fully.
forgotten.
Exactly. So the North and South nodes have a lot to do with like why you're here at a soul level and what you're working towards, or kind of what makes you come alive. But there isn't any one purpose. It's very complex, right? Very complex.
Oh, I love this. I'm excited to do more with you, hopefully on the Seeking Center, because I think there's so much overlap.
Definitely.
In terms of what we're talking about and how we think about this and how we can use astrology to help people grow both in their personality, but more importantly, their soul.
Totally. Yeah.
So Stevie, if people want to learn more about you, your work, get a reading from you, how can they do that? How can they find out more?
Yeah, my website has all of my information on it and how you can work with me. It's Stevie Calista, CALISTA.com. And my Instagram is Farmhouse Moon. And I post quite a bit on there, just like what's going on. And you can sign up for my newsletter and I'll send you your horoscopes but read your rising sign and all the happenings of all the things. But yeah, that's where you can find most of my information.
Well, Stevie, thank you so much for your time today, for this wisdom, for this deep conversation, not just about like the logistics of astrology, but the deeper meaning behind it. I think you will definitely have made people change how they think about this. And also for those therapists that are listening to think about how they might consider incorporating some of this work. You don't necessarily need to become an astrologer, but to be curious with someone about what their astrological chart might say and how it can help inform what you do. So Thank you, Stevie. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. I could talk to you forever.
I know. The same. Likewise. And we'll do it again for sure. Like what you heard today and want to hear more? Wondering what comes next and what it all means? Head over to Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere you get your podcasts and hit subscribe. Also, if you could take a minute to rate and review my podcast, I would really appreciate it. Stay tuned as we continue to explore life, death, and the space between.